very much as my wife,
Okay.
and she loved it. She loved it.
She loved our video.
I run everything by her once it's done because I don't like running stuff by her up front because I'll have to adjust too many things.
Right.
But she always gives me honest feedback, always without exception. That's why she's like my favorite person to run shit by. She
That's
loved
pretty
it.
awesome.
She loved what we did.
All right. I'm down with that. Thank you, Lauren.
You're doing an excellent job with the production.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Miss Jig. If Mama Jig's happy, the rest of the board's got to be happy. That's exactly how we're doing this. So we are actually recording on this. I'm about to get us started on this audio version. I didn't even have to pull the audio version in because we did so well on the video version. But
it was timed.
Yeah, it was.
It's basketball time at the
Rubber Rim Job. Season 3, Episode 2. Jig, we're inching closer to the launch of this season. How you feeling, my brother?
We are. I'm excited, man. I'm really pumped to see these guys. I will say, as I think back, I used to get super pumped. I was in college whenever LeBron showed up.
Right.
And Lizard Lips Gordon Gund did his jump for joy move.
Was that CBBI that called in and talked about
CBBI that caught that one? That's it. That's the move. See, now that we have video, we can really throw. Oh God, I'm gonna get a new mic next show. It's not the mic. It's the floppy. It's the cage. There's something wrong with the cage, and I just haven't. I don't know what the deal is, man.
You know, they make ginkgo, whatever that stuff is called for that. You know, they got
ginkgo biloba.
We can fix that right up like pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got to get a little bit of ginkgo biloba for my mic thing. Yeah, no. I'm gonna replace this thing for the next show. Now that we got video, I can't be fiddling around with this over here.
Maybe flopping around. It's
unacceptable. Yeah, exactly. I think you can get sued for this. HR nightmare. So I used to get totally cranked up.
Sued or divorced.
Right. Exactly. So I literally used to sit in front of we're gonna really do a callback here. I would wear the wine and gold LeBron James jersey at my computer, right? Okay. Really shitty internet at my parents' place when I'd come home for college.
Right.
And I would like run back and forth from the kitchen onto their computer. Like filling up vodka and orange juices. And just, man, but that was where it was at, man.
They didn't have dial-up in 2003, did they?
2003, we were done with dial-up, right?
I'm just
were we?
Sure.
No. Yeah, no, we were way past dial-up.
Okay. You weren't
dial-up. No, but it was shitty internet. It was bad internet, so I would definitely lose the signal, and it would go from like LeBron on one end of the court to like LeBron back on the other end of the court, and the score had changed by like 5 both ways.
So I have times where I was like that. I could not. I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't care for Matty Gooks, and I could not do Michael Regi. So
you did not like Regi, man.
To this day, he does some MAC games and stuff. And I'm sorry, Regi, if you so happen to come across this somewhere in the future. If he does MAC games and stuff, I mute it. Those tournament games, like when you're getting ready for the NCAA tournament, he's on there doing like games down in Akron. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. And I'll go find something on the radio. So back then, I had a little portable radio that I carried around with me. And Joe Tait, every game, I listened to Joe Tait. And I tried to, what was it, WTAM 850 or something like that?
WTAM. I was 870?
850, I thought, but it was possible.
Was it 850? It might have been.
And I turned that dial. Actually, the radio stayed on there. I didn't even have to change it off of there until I heard Joe Tait's voice. I don't care if the game was 5 seconds behind him. I don't care what it was.
Yep.
I was willing to listen to him. And then
absolutely.
He told it in a way that you were like, I already can see what's going to happen on the video.
That's for sure.
When he described, Price ahead to the front court, you knew exactly which part of the court he was on when he crossed the half court line. So Brandon Fields in the front court gives it to Ferry. You're like, okay, no, I know what you're doing, Joe. I see this. So
I lived in Bryan, Ohio from the time some guys may know where that is. It's like a tiny little town in Northwest
Right.
Ohio. I moved from Cleveland when I was a young kid. Joe Tait was so good, even as a young kid. I mean, I got it. That I would stay up late at night and I would listen to him do Derek Anderson, Jermaine Jones. Who else was on those teams? Man, who would have been? We would who we had. Who was our shooter
Cedric
out in the
Henderson,
corner? Sadhen, yeah, and then we
Brevin
had
Knight.
Wesley Person, Brevin Knight.
Yep.
Yeah, I was willing to listen to those guys just because he was so good.
Lamar Murray.
I'd lay in bed. I would listen to him, but here was the thing. I was far enough away, and then I even moved out to Indiana from there.
Right.
The signal got so bad that I had to get not rabbit ears. It was like one of those sharper image things. It was like this weird round equivalent of rabbit ears. I had to lay in a certain position on my bed.
I totally get it.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
I don't know how this worked, but like I figured out some sort of engineering where the signal must have like bounced off of my body. And if I was laying in just the right position as the night went on,
you had to hold it too.
You had to hold it like near your body. And as the night went on, the signal would get better. But like as long as I laid there, I could get the game. But I was willing to do it just because he was so good.
Man, he was so good. You had to put your right leg on the windowsill. You had to hold the antenna underneath your left arm. And then you had to hold the radio straight up in the air. Like there was something to it. It was like some Fox and Mulder X-Files type shit. And every once in a while,
a trophy.
Yeah. Every once in a while, if like somebody came and knocked on your door or something like that, and they brought their body in there and they contributed to the signal, like you would pick up on the president talking or something. You'd be like, whoa, what was that? Like, exactly. Or you hear some alien somewhere far off, like, and you're like, whoa, what? I'm pretty sure I just heard some Area 51 type shit. What was that kind of thing? So, no, you're speaking my language. These younger kids on the board, they don't have any idea.
They don't get it, man. They don't know.
What are you talking? Dial up? What? Radio?
Like, what's happening? Oh, man, they don't know. They don't know, but I wouldn't have had it any other way, man. We had to earn our Cavs and Indians, man. We had to work for it.
Man, we fought for it all. So last night they played Our Lady of the Jewish Elms. Who were they playing? They were playing
Maccabi. They were playing that Maccabi team.
Maccabi Rchfld something.
Something like that.
Shana na na.
I think you're combining two different areas together.
Maccabi, make them say,
You're gonna bring the world together.
On a serious note, I really appreciate the way that they brought in the humanitarian, kind of element and talked about it. They talked about it quite a little bit. And I appreciate the sensitivity of that. So, but the basketball was kind of cool because we saw some young kids. And actually, Jig, you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I want to touch on that, but I want to get to that after we cover this first half of this segment. So we'll save, the Cavs.
You got a guy, don't you?
Yeah. We'll save the young guys versus Our Lady of the Jewish Elms for later on in the episode. Just remind me when we're about halfway through. For right now, actually, I would love to touch on, we talked about unicorns and the archetype that is here for right now. Mm-hmm. But there's a guy in Cavs history who actually ushered in the Steph Curry era. Like he was the first person that really kind of cracked that windshield. I'm getting outside of myself. First and foremost, before we even do that, what are you listening to in your heart's jukebox? Like, what are you playing right now at the jig?
Man.
I'm sorry.
Oh man. So if you recall last episode, you brought up one of your favorite bands, Radiohead.
Absolutely.
One of my all-time favorite bands is REM. I started listening to them when I was a little kid. I have very strong memories. I can picture myself driving in the car with my folks. We would drive actually from Bryan to Cleveland to visit our family. I remember discovering, and this isn't the album I'm going to mention, but I remember discovering Automatic for the People.
All right.
They bought me the tape. Another one for you kids. Never have to listen to tapes. I remember them getting me the tape for Automatic for the People, and it blew my mind, right?
Right.
It's one of my first tapes, not the first, but it was one of them. And I remember listening to that one. I'd never really heard anything like it before. That like combination of like pop, but like weird off the wall topics that didn't have anything to do with what I was used to listening to. And they brought in like the B-52s on Shiny Happy People. I don't want to get too far on Automatic for the People. Or no, hang on. No. Was that Automatic for the whatever it was?
I think that was
whatever. What's that?
I think you're talking about Fables or
no. It was one of those first couple. It might have been it was either Automatic for the People or Out of Time. It doesn't really matter, but it was one of those in the middle of their career. That's not the one I want to talk about. The one I want to talk about was from 1998. And they had just lost their drummer and their producer at that time. And they brought in Radiohead's producer.
Nice.
And at that point in time, they decided, as they often did, to change up their sound significantly. So if you were to listen to Up by REM, which remains one of my favorite albums, including by them, then you will notice a much more electronic vibe to it. If you talk to REM fans, they'll like it. If you talk to other people, I don't think anybody remembers the damn thing. There's a super Beach Boys sounding song on there called At My Most Beautiful. It is gorgeous. It's got some piano on it and just Michael Stipe singing. And then there's Lotus is an awesome song. And there's just like the whole album is just loaded with these super obscure topics that they sing about. Very orchestral sound to it. One of my all-time favorite albums. I didn't even know this that the producer from Radiohead had come along until I did a little bit of research about it, awesome, so I knew what the hell I was talking about. I told you they'd tie together.
Like a small world, like that's pretty cool. I like
music is a small world when you look at the best, most inventive artists.
Right, agreed. Like there's a whole bunch of copycats and a whole bunch of color by numbers. But when you look at the guys who are actually painting, and actually, pulling out their paintbrush and making in rainbows or making up, it's actually a small group at that table. And Michael Stipe and REM, of course, are in that conversation. Like my favorite, I think REM is on that Vanilla Sky movie as well. Of course, I'm pretty sure they are. They're on so many movies.
Go on with what you're saying. You got to be right. They had to have been.
So many movies, not even funny. Mine is, of course, Man on the Moon. I don't know. It's always been like.
You are right. They were all the right friends. Wow, that's a random. And Sweetness Follows.
Yep, Sweetness Follows. Yep, sure is. Because that's that. I was about to say that's that more mellow, kind of somber kind of thing. And I think the part of Vanilla Sky when it played was, I want to say, closer to his fake funeral in the middle of the movie. But anyway, Up by REM. That's pretty awesome.
Up by REM. So and what I did was I actually went out. Go ahead.
At my most beautiful.
Strongly recommend. Okay. Strongly recommend Lotus, but I mean, really, the whole thing is very. It feels like it has nothing to do with the rest of their career, which is what I love about it. And that's what I like about great bands, in that they can just drop everything and then say, hey, we're going to try this. And if people like it, then that's great. But we just want to experiment and try something. And if it feels awesome, then that's going to be, that's what we're out here to do. And that's what they did. And it really, it did pretty well. I mean, I think it got up to number 3, but it feel like everybody forgot it.
That's pretty awesome. I personally, if you asked me, I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, that album Up. So you're putting something on my plate that I'm about to go chew on. So thank you for
Please. I think you're going to like it a lot.
So I think right around the time that these guys were really kind of hitting their apex, their creative apex, 92, 93, 94.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been their yeah, for sure, definitely.
There's this tiny little guard who, I think 1987, he was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in the second round. Really kind of like considered a throwaway kind of guy. Out of Georgia Tech. They said, oh man, he can shoot, but he at the next level, he's not physical enough, not big enough, none of those kind of things. And Wayne Embry, he reaches out to the Dallas Mavericks and is like, you know what? I'll give you a second round pick in 1989 if you give me that little white point guard right there, like that little guy, that just another guy right there. Let me get him, And the funny thing about that is it's awesome to deal from a position of strength because we had a couple of guards. We had John Bagley as our starting point guard. I want to say Battle at the time was backing him up. I don't know, but we had two or three. We had a couple point guards. So by all intents and purposes, it didn't look like we were filling a need. You know what I mean? And we'll speak on that when we talk later about wings and stuff. But so Mark Price has his rookie year. William Mark Price has his rookie year here, and he's a sparse contributor. I think he's 6 or 7 points a game, couple assists. Shooting numbers look good, but it was like, I'm just trying to get my legs up under me, Lenny Wilkins was not the guy to be like, whoever you are, you're just going to come in and start right away. He was a veteran. Like, he made you appreciate and earn everything you got. Good old Lenny Wilkins. He did it later on with Price's successor, Terrell Brandon. He was like, I get that you're the number 10 or number 11 pick in the draft, but you're going to sit behind this guy and watch this guy. So his second year, Price becomes the starter. He jumps up to about 16 points a game or so. I'm going to share his card because we got it right here. And as we're diving into these numbers and stuff, everybody has Mark Price stories. Everybody loved Mark Price. But what do you know about some Mark Price, Jake? Like, how did you feel? And do you remember before he really took off and became, the guy who ultimately is the forefather to what Steph Curry ended up doing in the league?
I don't remember before. I remember during big time. I loved Mark Price as a kid. I, in fact, didn't think of point guards as anything other than Mark Price. I thought that's what a point guard was.
That's pretty awesome.
I thought a point guard as a kid was a guy who came down the floor, distributed, and shot threes. That's what I thought a guy was. Particularly a white dude. that was my archetype of a point guard, for real. No, I mean, really,
a white point guard who can shoot. Don't run the point for Jig is what you were saying back then.
No, for real. I mean, back then, watching as a Cavs fan, that's what I thought a point guard was. The white guy part was only secondary to the whole thing, just because he was the guy that I was watching. Obviously, it didn't particularly matter. That was just the dude I was watching. So if I saw the point guard as the guy that came down the floor, got the ball off to his bigs, and he had to be able to shoot threes. And so as I grew up, if I saw a point guard that couldn't shoot, right, or that was like an Eric Snow or Brevin Knight type of guy,
right,
to me, that didn't fit within the box of what I was used to seeing.
He was a liability.
Or super athletic dudes. Those guys were breaking out of the box for me too. Mark Price was truly the archetype of a point guard.
I'm talking about
Absolutely.
6 point as a I was about to say freshman. As a rookie, 6.9 points per game. They got totals on the back of these hoops cards. That's terrible. 40% from the field, from the floor, 83% from the free throw line, and he jumped up as a 80 game starter the next year to 50% shooting, 87% from free throw line, and he's the first 50. What is the stat? 50 40 90. He was the first 50 40 90 guy. Like, literally,
was he the first? Was he really?
Literally everything that we applaud Steph Curry for and this archetype point guards, Mark Price was at first. The funny thing about that is his father, Dale Curry, was a reserve here in Cleveland when Steph Curry was born. So Steph Curry came out, and first thing he saw was Mark Price playing point guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Exactly right.
But anyway, I'm gonna let Isaiah Thomas, because my point guard archetype was Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson. When I fell in love with the game, these were the two dudes. Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas; Los Angeles Lakers, Magic Johnson, and they were entirely different from each other. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You had Magic, who couldn't shoot outside of the free throw line, who can control the game with his brain and his size. And then you had Isaiah, who could score from anywhere he wanted to on the floor, who could just embarrass.
Ball handling too.
It didn't matter.
Ball handling.
And man, so let's hear from Zeke, because actually one of the most, I know he's a piece of crap as some of the legal stuff and all that kind of stuff.
I got something for you about Zeke too. That's so fun. That cracks me up to this day.
Let's see what we've got from good old Isaiah Thomas. It's about a minute long, so guys, bear with us.
Price around quarter, banks it. Price for the lead, got it for the three.
Mark Price off the pick and roll, one of the greatest shooters I've ever seen in our game. Now, there's a thing we call 50-40-90. Guy shoots 50% from the field, 40% from the three, 90 from the line. That was Mark Price back then. Mark Price can come off screens, he can catch it, he can shoot it, but then he was fast and he was quick and he could run all day. And then there's this thing now where they split the screen. But Mark Price was coming off and he was splitting the screen and then he's pulling up, popping.
I didn't even think about that.
Excuse me.
Yep.
From the 3-point line.
He's so good at this.
His shot making, his foul shooting, and then his speed made him like almost unguardable during that era.
I've got to interrupt him real quick. I miss the Seattle Sonics, man. Like, honestly, like bring the team back, bring their colors back, give that city back their team.
Same here. I agree. I think they're the first city that should get a team. They were so fun, man.
They were so fun, man. They used to pack the Key Arena, and that thing looked like it was going to fall apart. Once
did you used to play with them on NBA Jam ever?
Absolutely. That duo was unstoppable. Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. I think Payton had like an 8 on his threes, which was not true at the time.
Kemp, no, for sure.
Oh yeah, that duo was unstoppable. They were the only duo who I could go up against. Oh, of course. They, of course, had to have something to say for the episode. They were the only duo who I could go up against Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen with, and dominate them. But go ahead.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, that's okay. I have a perfect Isaiah video for you right after this. That's going to fit right in. But yeah, go continue.
And of course, my dogs are like, "Oh, we're going to talk during this whole thing."
Yeah, you can barely hear him. They got to get involved.
He got another triple to go.
We were at the Palace, and we were playing against Cleveland, and Mark Price, he was killing me the first quarter. Chuck Daly calls timeout. I come to the bench. Chuck goes, "Isaiah, Mark's killing you. He's killing you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to get it together." And so we go back out. Mark Price hits another 3. Quick call timeout. We come to the bench. Chuck goes, "Mark is killing you, Isaiah. Like, you got to do something." I say, "Hey, Chuck, listen to me. I know he's killing me. The 20,000 people in the arena know he's killing me. My teammates know he's killing me. Can you tell me something that's going to help me right now to stop this dude from killing me? Because we all know he's killing me."
That's enough, Zeke.
Excellent. So one of my go ahead.
No, I was going to say whatever. Tell me what to pull up, and I'll make sure it plays here next.
One of my go ahead and look up Isaiah Thomas ball handling kids. See if that pops up on YouTube. And then I'll while you're working on that, I'll tell you something. Yes, that's it. Fundamentals of dribbling. So one of my favorite things about sports, and just in general, well, let me explain.
No, you can be a thing. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about sports is when the old heads come back and they teach a younger generation of kids.
I love it.
How to play. But I love it when they do what we're about to watch. So go ahead and start this video, and then I'll explain a little bit further after we watch. You could start it probably.
These are the fundamentals of dribbling.
Okay. Yeah, start it here, and then we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding.
Right.
You know what you're about to watch. Start the fundamentals out. So this is for kids that are probably about 5 years old.
That is called double dribble. And when you think about dribbling, think about it as though you were driving and you had a driver's license. Because when you know how to dribble this basketball, it allows you to go anywhere on the floor that you want to go. First thing you want to do is eyes up so you can see everything out on the floor. You will be able to see the basketball beneath you. So you don't necessarily have to look down, but you have to trust your eyes. And if you look straight ahead, you can see right, you can see left, you can see up, and you can see down. But if you're only looking down, you only got one direction you can see.
Good stuff so far.
When you're bouncing the basketball, I got my eyes up. I can see my teammate over here. I can see my teammate over there. And then I can
starting to get a little advanced.
I can see here. I can see there.
This is where the kids start sweating. Like, what is this?
Good balance.
Just
wait. You want to stay tight. And if you need to take off and run, you can move with the basketball. Very rarely do you want to stand straight up bouncing the basketball.
All good. This is all good stuff.
Okay.
Then that defender can get into you and force you to go backwards. So you always want to be in what we call a triple threat position, where you're bouncing the basketball. If you need to take off, you can take off. Now, dribbling the basketball, it's all about your fingertips. You want your fingertips on the basketball. You don't want to be underneath the basketball.
Right.
You want to be on top of the basketball. And if you can stay on top of the basketball and use your fingertips, then you can play games with it. You can bounce it, you can make music, and dance with it.
I love it. He's got 5-year-old kids watching him.
Stress the hell out right now. He went from 0 to 100 and like with a smile on his face in like 0.0 seconds.
What he's doing up there.
There's some kid that was like, okay, and then they just went.
So he goes the rest of the video and he's just throwing that thing around like the Harlem Globetrotters out here. So I will sometimes just binge watch these things.
He's doing that with fingers like he's playing a keyboard.
He's doing one finger here with these kids. These kids don't know who Isaiah Thomas is. They just... So there you go. Good luck. So I love these videos where like these kids who don't know who Isaiah or who Jerry Stackhouse is, like he shows up to their camp. And it's like, oh, it's just some NBA player, and he comes in.
Yeah, he started dogging
him. Just started dogging him, and he's posting them up. And these kids are probably in high school, but they're like, like probably the best kids at their high school. But he's posting them up, he's backing them down, and he had a beautiful shot, right? He had a beautiful post game, but it's like when you're playing somebody one-on-one, nobody wants to play somebody who's posting up. Like nobody wants that. But he's just laying into these guys one after the other.
All right, so
dominating them.
Before I do these other videos, because there's a couple of things that shows you. I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit. So Mark Price was that dude, as Isaiah Thomas just said, right? And you can find every legend from that era, Isaiah Thomas, John Stockton, everybody. That's like, you know what? I hated playing Mark Price because he never stopped moving. But then he also would cross you up, like a very underrated crossover. You know what I'm saying? So I want to show you towards the tail end of his career, he was a backup for the Golden State Warriors, 1997. And in comes this young punk named Allen Iverson, who, fresh off the streets, fresh off the streets of Virginia. In that rookie year, these guys had 3 different run-ins. They had a run-in the preseason, where Mark got a little feisty with him. And then they had this run-in, which was early in the year in the Bay Area. So watch this here.
Rchfld.
It is a game-long.
No, this is in Philly.
Pushing and shoving match between Mark Price and Allen Iverson. This dates back to the preseason and also their matchup a couple of weeks ago in San Jose. These two guys apparently just don't
Clarence
like each other.
Witherspoon.
Witherspoon misses. He'll be
Man, I love these old guys.
Today's news today, along with thought-provoking commentary from the Bay Area and beyond, the San Francisco Examiner.
So you saw a little hand jostling. Get your hand off.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow.
All right, now watch this. Watch what Mark Price does to him for that. Yeah, he's like, get your hand off me. And Mark Price holds his arm there. He got that from John Stockton.
After Thanksgiving, that was a win.
Watch this crossover.
Stockton was dirty, man.
He was.
Little mismatch here as far as foot speed. Mark Davis.
Jiminy Cricket.
And now we have a foul on Mark Price.
That was a Stockton move. Did you see he tried to take his legs out? A little dirty.
Stockton was dirty, man. He was dirty.
With a bum ankle.
You get tired of that, playing a guy like that for the whole game. Gets in your head.
I forgot Rick Idleman coached the Warriors for a little bit of time.
Me too.
I guess Davis, excuse me, run into Sprewell, so they don't call a foul there. Now you're going to see the dive, and they call that.
You see that?
On Mark Price.
Yeah.
Slipping a little bit, but Price simply beat him to the floor, into the ball.
Michael Cage just came into the game.
Very poor call. Iverson
That stat was who was that down there? Was it Jameson?
Retaliate against Price by shooting the ball. Now Mark Price is barely shooting the ball.
Yeah, no,
tonight,
Jameson's rookie year was in
half.
Golden State. Yeah.
So he's
And
trying
Joe
to do
Smith
it.
too. Joe Smith was in this game.
Charles Sprewell.
Rchfld.
He is what you call a volume shooter. In other words, he needs to shoot a lot to score a lot of points.
Get
Price
some
wide open.
spike.
Price is long and efficient.
Right, so that's setting the tone, right? They already had their preseason brouhaha. Now this guy is like, wait, I'm a like 10 or 12-year vet. I'm an Olympic Dream Team dude. By this time he had played on Dream Team too. You're not about to be out here just doing whatever you want. So
There's Price. He lost Iverson and nailed the shot. You know he loves that.
Oh, and he looked right at him. He didn't talk any trash, but his eyes did.
And he held a shooting hand out there. A thoroughly enjoyable game tonight between
Hang
the
that
Warriors
shooting hand.
is terrible.
and
You
the
see this video?
Sixers of Allen
Watch this
Iverson.
crossover.
Mark Price has really gotten into it. After a basket a moment ago, Mark Price leave the hand out there for a moment.
And that's what Isaiah Thomas was talking about. He's like, man, this dude will bust, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he come out and he shoot it from range. He wouldn't like cross you up and then go to the rim. I mean, he could.
Right.
The little teardrop runner. I got two more videos for you, but we're gonna touch on a little feisty Price, right?
Fouls, I can't really help it.
The gray in the beard.
Little backdrop real quick. So this is the 1993 Eastern Conference Finals, where the Cavs, I believe they lost the Bulls 4-2. This is in Rchfld. And I think, I don't remember which game this was. This might have been like game 2 or 3. So like it's still very much an open series. But yeah.
Good card play. Is that for wisdom? Pippen with only Price to beat, and Price denies the shot, and Price goes
He went right back for him. I like that. Gerald Wilkins.
Larry Nance like, come on, chill out.
What you'll see is that
Some of you kids that are on the board, if you didn't remember watching this team, you just saw Larry Nance, Brad Daugherty, Craig Elo. I don't know who else on the floor. Was it Hot Rod? I'm not sure. You're talking about my team now. Like these are the kids. These are the dudes I grew up watching.
Were there no Bulls? That's a championship team. I mean, a lot of teams can say that, of course.
Without a doubt. If there was no Chicago Bulls,
say that. Yeah.
And the honest to God truth is, the league propped him up. There was some help. He got a little bit of help. So
quite a bit. He was getting the equivalent of those Maddox 2-foot outside strikes every game.
That's not sour grapes. That's the whole Brady Tuck rule thing. Like he got a little bit of help here and there. But what set Mark Price off? You see it right here.
Go up, and Price tried to get, and Pippen pushes him in the back. First of all, this is a pretty good play off the tip. But watch, Pippen wants to do a one hand, and the officials don't see this. Now watch, right here, he got punched in the back.
You see that? Gave him a nice little shove in the back.
I love that. He went after it.
I want to point out something. Did you see how we had the Rchfld Coliseum rocking just now?
Mm-hmm.
Like I look past the fact that this whole thing is happening on the court. Like we had that thing packed. It looked so intimate. It looked like one of those Indiana gyms you talked about.
Field house.
When you were a kid and stuff. It looked like a field house. Man, that thing was jumping. So, this little guy had some fight. This little guy was a little spicy. And, from 88 until, early 90s, he still was under the radar. He tore his ACL in like 1990. And back then, if you tore your ACL, sometimes that was a death wish for players.
Absolutely.
Like, you always come back from that. He came back and he scored more the next year. So I think he went up to like 18 points a game or something in his year after the ACL. He wore that. I think he tore his left ACL. So he came back and he put that knee pad on and he wore it for the rest of his career, the left knee pad. This dude was amazing. All of this culminated in a magical weekend. There were back-to-back weekends. In 1993, that's what this is all born from. So in 1993, this dude set the league on fire at the All-Star break with, I want to say he hit like 20 out of 22 3-pointers in his championship round. And he was going against Terry Porter from the Portland Trailblazers. I love Terry Porter.
Yep.
Totally underrated. Dude could score and everything like that, but he was like, you know what? I'm just going to set my guys up. But Terry Porter could have put up almost 30 points a game. And then so Price won his initial 3-point championship. Then he comes back the next year, and this was the magical weekend. We sent Mark Price and Brad Daugherty out to Salt Lake City for the All-Star game. And everybody was like, oh, this is the year that Karl Malone and John Stockton are getting ready to take the league by storm and all this kind of stuff. Price came off the bench in that game. I think he scored 19 points in that All-Star game. He literally almost won the MVP. He had 6 threes in that game. And I just was like, shoot it. Like,
out to Booby, 3-ball, got it!
I genuinely felt like Mark Price could not miss that night. I wished, and I think whoever the coach was left him out there. I think Jordan was on the bench for a long time because we were coming back as the East. Daugherty knew how to find him, so Daugherty was force feeding him. He was just magic. But the night before that happened, little video here I'm going to just play, and then we're going to get off this video stuff.
And he missed all 5. For the championship, Mark Price.
Shooting clinic.
His first 3 shots.
How clean that shot is.
Man.
Think about it, 4 in a row, and he hit the funny ball. The angelic face of Mark Price.
That is a great fundamental shot right there.
It's the exact same every time.
I think Charles did it right on the head. You better knock
Look at
Mark
that.
Price out early. Once he gets rolling, it's too late. 9 out of 10.
It's a perfect shot.
Man.
It's just beautiful. Look at this. It's just everything is there. The snap on the release is just picture. It's just beautiful.
Man, you want to teach somebody to shoot a basketball. There it is.
And he's got a couple of training videos, kids. So if you're watching this.
He does. Yeah, he does. One's recent, too. One was just him shooting in the gym.
The record is 25 points.
Man.
Finish it out, Mark. Finish it out.
Oh, we missed the last couple, huh?
Yeah. By that point in time, he ran out of gas, and he already secured. He beat Dana Barros from the 76ers that year.
Dana Barros. I remember
Dana Barros in the championship round for the. So back-to-back.
Dana Barros was a little guy, if I recall correctly, like little.
He was 5'11". That was his All-Star year, Dana Barros, because he led the 76ers in scoring that year right there. But yeah, no, it's Mark Price. So what ended up coming from Mark Price is around 1990 or 87, whenever Steph was born, maybe 87, 88, I don't know. Mark Price had a teammate, Dale Curry, who was living down in Akron, went over to Akron General and gave birth to a little boy, Wardell Steph Jr. And Steph Curry is literally this guy's archetype, like actualized. Like he became a manifestation of what Price was doing back then. I mean, there's been blips on the radar since then of little guys who could, spread it or get to but they did not play like the way this guy was playing and the way Steph Curry ended up taking it. And Steph Curry just added 10 more feet to that. So like Mark, it was unheard of that guards would pull up the way he did, because a guard's job was to feed it down into the post, like get the big guys involved, keep the defense honest, but you're supposed to play like John Stockton. Stockton made a career out of making sure Karl Malone got going in space. Not Mark Price. No, Mark Price was getting ready. And I mean, he benefited some from Doherty's injuries and stuff, and Lenny letting him free, because Lenny had an equal opportunity to keep the ball moving kind of thing. But man, it was so amazing to see the new point guards being ushered in that played like him, and Steph Curry being, Steve Nash also.
Yep.
Then you got this little guy who's playing the point guard for the Cavs now, who genuinely plays just like this guy.
He does.
Like this earlier to start this season, he's been letting that thing fly. He has. In these first 2 games, I think he was like 2 for 10 in the first one, and I don't know, he hit like 8 of them in one half in the second preseason game against Orlando. I don't know, but as he's taken the bull by the horns, he's becoming the unquestioned leader of the team, like in locker room and on the floor. We're seeing Darius Garland play offensively a lot more like this guy. So, I just had to bring him up, had to show him some love. Throw the old guy.
I love it. I think it's great. You get into a little bit of history of the game, and you can see where all those connections come from. And you can connect a lot of dots from the guys today back to that Mark Price style of player for sure. I mean, you can see, look, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, 100%. Right. And when you see kids practicing in the gym today, and you see that, those shots that they're taking from, way beyond 3-point range, right? And those come from Steph. But yeah, Steph's game comes from Mark. Right. It's funny because Steph has that little warm up that he does that starts up close to the basket, and then he gradually pushes farther and farther away. If you watch Mark Price's shooting videos, they'll show you something that's very similar to that.
Nice.
And he does. I mean, that's how you do it. I mean, that's how you warm up in basketball. And you want to start with the easy stuff to get your form right, and then you want to pull farther and farther from the basket to to get your legs under you and everything. But that was the thing about Mark Price that I think like any generation could appreciate, or at least I would think, is that he had a fun, flashy game. You can even see it in the box scores, but his fundamentals were incredible. I mean, if you're a coach, that's the dude you want to have on your team. And that's actually true of Steph too. His fundamentals underlie the flash. He has a beautiful, beautiful shot. And he really does. I mean, it's a gorgeous shot. And I know his feet can get a little wild, but I mean, all in all, he really does just have a beautiful shot. And I mean, these guys, I mean, it's like art just watching him play. And I hope that as the game develops and kids are shooting from outside, that we can get to a place where, you're seeing these kids. I don't know if they need to get up closer to the 3-point line or whatever, but I want to see, nice clean shots like that.
Right. So I want to bring up something that you brought up, because you said on that training video that may have fathered the Steph Curry pre-game shooting thing. I'm looking at one Dell Curry's Virginia Tech stats. Dude was a scorer. 4 years at Virginia Tech.
Oh, definitely.
Shot 47% from the field, 52% from the field, 48, and then 52% shot.
That exactly.
Here's the thing: 85% from the free throw line his freshman year. His percentage went down every 75%, 75, and then 78.
The volume.
Yeah, it wasn't. It might have been the volume, but his 3-point shooting. I don't know if they weren't keeping the stats for that leading up to 1986 when he got drafted to Utah Jazz out of Virginia Tech.
That's around when the 3-point line came in.
Okay, but let me tell you what. I'd like to think that Mark Price probably impacted. He had the guards on that team.
The 3-point line was 79.
Oh yeah, so it was there. Just in college, I don't see the stats for it. Mark Price, Steve Kerr, and Dell Curry. Like, those are the shooters, and Danny Ferry for the Larry Nance was letting it go from outside. Craig Elo, of course. Those were the shooters on those teams when Dell Curry, found a sticking point in the league. So I'm just saying, before he was made available and in the expansion draft, grabbed by the Charlotte Hornets. It's a possibility Del Curry might have adjusted his jumper too based off of Mark Price. So we literally
it
might
could
be.
Be and 1986 is when the 3-point line was established in college.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
So that's right. Sense. That's right on target there.
Okay. That makes sense. So he may have been showing range in college and it just wasn't statistically recorded.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. No way.
A lot of people, Mark Price, I believe he's number 3 overall for all-time free throw percentage still to this day. So
who's number 1? I'm going to look at that list real quick. That's an interesting one. NBA, because everybody wants to watch us look up statistics here. Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, 90%.
Steve Nash, Mark Price.
So Steph Curry, 908. Steve Nash, 904. Mark Price, 903.
Wow.
If that ain't the perfect embodiment. So Mark Price is like, look at my 2 sons over me. Like
that's exactly right.
Look at what I did. Look at what I birthed. These guys came and they're over the top of me in this free throw percentage shooting. So
can we talk about a guy that I think is probably on some people's minds before we get things wrapped up?
Oh yeah,
he's on mine.
Please.
I want to talk about Emoni Bates a little bit.
All right.
Since we're talking about tossing threes up there.
Are you going with Bates? Are you going with Bates Motel? Like some of the guys are trying to get us to sink our teeth. I don't like that.
Really? Because what Bates Motel doesn't. What does motel have to do with anything?
I think it's just a catchy. What was wasn't that like on a horror movie or like on?
Well, the Bates Motel is Psycho from Psycho.
Okay. Yeah, I
don't see how it ties in. No, I'm gonna just keep ironically calling him E-Money because it's stupid.
Okay. I like E-Money.
I'm gonna own E-Money, and if people want to follow along, they can. And if they don't want to, I'm gonna keep calling him it anyways. So it becomes a meta joke that only I enjoy, and then I'm just gonna roll with it. And then if people laugh at it, and they laugh at it, and if they don't, I'm gonna continue to do it. So my thoughts on Emoni. Here's the first thing I want to talk about off the floor.
Okay.
I find it interesting that I thought they were going to kind of hide him a little bit conversationally. I didn't think they were going to talk about him or hype him up at all based on his past.
Right.
They're not doing that. They're starting to make a thing out of him a little bit. Which could mean one of a couple things. It could mean that they think his issues in the past were due to the people around him, and that hyping him up is not going to cause any problems for his ego.
Right.
It could be that, or alternatively, it could be because they're making a mistake by doing that. And it's just something that teams tend to do anyways. They just, in the social media age, they just tend to hype guys up. It's just like something that everybody does. But either way, his shot looks really good.
Can I give my take on what I think they're doing?
I want you to do that.
I think these guys learned from covering for Kevin Porter Jr. Like so much happened that we don't even know anything about, and that we didn't hear anything about or hear any whispers about until the recent stuff that just happened, where people were like, yeah, in Cleveland, he actually shot some guy and they just buried him underneath the rock.
Yeah.
They just kept
There was that one article where they were really going into it. It was like, wow.
Yeah. And it's like, wait, what? I mean, there were times where people were like, what is, like, they shouldn't be doing this. There are people on the board like human Q-tip. He and I got into it a couple times because he was like, don't compromise. Don't give this kid second chances. He's a piece of crap. But a lot of the stuff nobody knew about because the Cavs were like just sweeping it under the rug. Like, that episode of, that scene in Anchorman where Brick, like, they're like, I think Brick killed a guy, like, after the fight.
Right.
That's Emoni. That's Kevin Porter after we traded him. Like, they were all like,
well, it turns out Raphael Stone was covering shit up like crazy out there.
So in both cases, both organizations were like, we got this. Just fall back. We'll take care of you. It's okay. You don't have to answer for this. And he kept perpetuating it. It kept getting worse. He kept being emboldened by them covering him.
Absolutely.
So what it looks like is happening here is it looks like they're like, no, you got skin in this. Like, this is your rep.
Okay.
You answer for this. You atone for what went wrong in the past. Like, we're going to let people ask you about, like there's been a time or two where you felt like Kobe was like mugging guys like Fedor and some other guys and be like, if you say something about this, I'm going to pull your plug. It ain't happening with Emoni Bates. And I appreciate it because, yes, he does like the spotlight. Like, there's not a single thing that happens that he doesn't pop up online and it's like, like, watch me do this, let me do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I like the way Kobe, Gansey, and Weems, they're like, no, you speak for this, like you atone for this. Okay. We'll let you get the praise, but we'll also let you have to answer for accountability. I like it.
Okay.
It for me, it actually is better than what they did with the kitty gloves. It shows growth organizationally. And I think this kid came along at the perfect time for us to be able to, polish up a diamond. But go ahead. I didn't mean to take over you.
No, I appreciate the feedback. And I think having a guy like, as it turns out, having a guy like Tristan there, having a guy like Donovan there who have been there and have stronger personalities could definitely benefit. When do you think he's coming up to the pros, to the NBA, if at all, this year?
So
is he getting some time? We're all going to want to see him.
Let me tell you what. If this kid showed even a semblance of defense, he would be up there before.
Yeah, he's struggling there.
So he doesn't have that, and it's good that he's going to go down. It's good that he's going to share backcourt with CPJ, with Craig Porter Jr., because Craig Porter Jr. knows how to get this guy to eat.
I'm liking I'm liking him.
So it's actually good. I hope that while he's down there, he's not like, let me just score 40 points a game. I hope that he's like, let me impact the game in a way that'll get me on the floor with Darius, Donovan, Evan, and actually play some defense. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like, I'm not being, hyperbolic when I say I see a world where either because of an injury or, just as a result of getting this guy to continue buying in, you could see him up here after the trade deadline, possibly. I hope. I would not mind, because last night when he went out there against Our Lady of the Jewish Elms and he contributed, like he came in the first quarter and that thing went up the moment he came in, and the crowd loves this kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember Deli's rookie year? Do you remember Anderson's first year? Like, there's players that come in that we take a loving to. You can't keep them off the floor.
Something about them. Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot keep them off the floor. This ain't, there have been some guys that are like a charity case kind of thing where we're like, like this
Luke
ain't
Jackson
that
would have been that guy eventually. Yeah. Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Earl Boykins in 97 or 98, he came over to the Cavs, and it was like, oh, little Earl, like, let him play, out of Eastern Michigan. He was from Cleveland. Just give him the ball, let him get some shots up. This ain't that. This is the moment he steps on the floor.
Want to see this dude.
He has a gravity that you're like, wait a minute. Got to count for him. So I think before the year is over, he can be up contributing in a bit role. I don't think that would be the worst thing for his development. I don't think he needs to.
I agree. I think just being with the team and these guys is huge for a guy like that.
So start off for sure. The first, month or two leading up to, Christmas and stuff, just him and Craig Porter Jr. riding on the bus, sharing lunch, splitting milk and stuff, like, getting their baby feet wet. But then around the All-Star break or so, have them come up, start carrying bags and getting donuts, and right after that trade deadline, let this kid smell the floor a couple times.
Guy who looks healthy, that could be a big deal, is Drippy Dean Wade.
One drip. I missed this guy last year. Last year was a tough year for the drip.
He started out great.
Yeah. It was. They
were going on huge runs when he was shooting the ball well.
There was a moment in time.
He's a big part of Cavalanches.
Man, he was a big part of Cavalanches. He made it look like Kevin Love could be expendable. Like there was a point in time where he genuinely, you were like, okay, no, this guy is Kevin Love Jr. as not as a the guy
current
for.
K Love. Yeah, not like young K Love. No, I know what you mean.
The guy who should have been the 7th guy in the rotation, Kevin Love.
Exactly.
You saw him being that guy on an everyday basis. He's looking like he's who did he dunk on 2 years ago?
I know the exact. I was going to bring it up too. I can't remember who he dunked on. I remember the dunk. I don't remember who he dunked on.
Did he surprise himself when he did it? I think he did.
He did surprise himself. It was definitely one of those things where he clearly got up with he was I'm looking it up.
There was that same year, Lowry dunked on Nikola Jokic, and then Drippy Dean dunked on somebody. And it was.
Here's one on Ken Birch.
Yes, I think that was it against Toronto.
I don't even know who Ken Birch is. It was against Toronto. Who the hell is Ken Birch? Yeah, he didn't know he could do that. In that moment, that was the first time he learned he could do that.
He was like, "Oh shucks, I'm getting ready to pull this
galloping down the floor." It was the first time he realized he could do that.
They didn't do that. What was the name of his town back in Kansas?
Somewhere in Kansas.
St. Clair or St.
I think it was Ken Birch, Kansas, actually. It was Ken Birch.
He's playing for San Antonio right now. He's been around as a big guy. Hold on,
Wade.
Of course, this thing looks like it came off of a VHS tape. Well, let me see if I got a better one before I do this, and then
no, that's the only one that's on there. That's it.
Oh man, this is terrible. This is 2021. Like, how are we looking at this?
This is what I used to watch LeBron play back when I was in college. This is what it looked like.
Why are we looking at this Zapruder film in order to watch a dunk? Like, what's happening right here?
Wade to the rim. Whoa. Hey now. Whoa. Dean
Look
Wade.
at him. Who's that guy? That's probably coach. That's probably Dean Wade's coach.
What is his name on the board? I don't want to give him a shout out.
I can't.
Comeback Kid. That might have been Comeback Kid right there, front and center. Because whoever that guy was, he had on a Dean Wade jersey.
That guy he's the only guy in America. Like NBA.com sold a Dean Wade jersey, and whoever was in the shop was like, "Oh my God, we have to print a Dean Wade jersey."
I need that right here. Let me get that.
Oh, you know what? Actually, they probably just pulled up some of the old Dwayne Wade jerseys.
No, I was about to say they probably just got a Dwayne Wade jersey and put a number 32 on there. Took Shaq's 32 and put it on the front of the jersey. But no, he's been a pleasant surprise to date.
I'm loving him.
I actually was like, man, I wouldn't mind seeing him earlier in the rotation.
Same.
Last night, and before this preseason wraps up, give him every opportunity to be one of the top 8 if possible, because
absolutely
he sneakily is one of the better defenders of threes. Like he's a smart veteran. He same conference as Niang, but he had injury issues, but it wasn't his legs, which is what happened with Niang. He's
right.
His shoulder, he can still defend guys and move his body and make things, and he's sneakily athletic. So yeah, no, the rookies, we may not see them to start. We should not see them to start the season. However, it feels like we benefited from Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade both playing better as the pace has picked up. So we touched on this very briefly. I just want to touch on it before we close. Wham with the right hand has some really good stats where he pointed out how faster these guys are playing, like how more frequently these shots are going up as threes, and the pace, the increase in pace that's unlocking some of these guys that have looked lost. Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, Damian Jones potentially. So,
yep.
Whatever this thing is that all of a sudden they're running and they're getting these dudes involved and they look more comfortable, I want to see it continue. Do you believe we'll keep this pace up as the season starts, or?
I don't know. Every offseason, teams claim that they're going to run the break, and then they don't. I'm going to give you an I don't know on that one.
Okay. There's something about it where I truly believe it is. I have faith that JBB heard enough, you know. The Damage mentioned on a couple of days ago this segment that Fedor had on Zach Lowe's podcast. Let me tell you what, you know, like for all the crap, you know, I've given him on the board and stuff because, you know, 10 or 15 years ago, he was just like the guy doing the radio bumper things and stuff for the really big show.
Right.
And then he became this, you know, I'm going to be the beat reporter. And I was just like, yeah, no, I think he's just like like shill. This dude knows his stuff. Like he covered that.
You do a good one.
He represented pretty well. Like he was not only talking about, he just didn't seem like he was a mouthpiece. He was like holding them accountable for the playoff mess up and everything. But then he was also saying what he was hearing walking around practice and everything like that. That's good. He was doing a Jason Lloyd in his prime example, and he was bringing it on Zach Lowe. So if you get a chance, listen to Fedor on that segment. I think
I will check it out.
It's only like a 20-minute segment or so, but you know, Zach Lowe carries.
Should I retract my take that he did not work the Darius Garland interview well, or questioning at the presser?
Yeah. I genuinely think they were having a good time with each other. I think that was innocent enough that it's possible they were just kind of like unintentionally going at each other, and it was funny.
You think
the way he delivered on the Zach Lowe thing, I was like, no, this dude knows his stuff. Like he's not terrible. Okay, so
I actually don't know. I don't know enough about Fedor. I just love the way that Darius handled that, whether serious or not. I enjoyed the exchange.
Yeah, Darius was giving him a little bit of what Mark Price gave Scottie Pippen back there. So, all right. So as we're closing in, one more week until this season gets started. We touched on one of the greatest point guards of all time, who happens to be a Cleveland Cavalier, one of my favorite point guards of all time. This
Absolutely.
guy right here.
If he'd have lasted longer, he'd have been a Hall of Famer.
Without a question. Dream Team 2 gold medal winner. And we talked about, you know, the same thing we did last week, where Evan Mobley is the archetype of the unicorn, and how a couple of guys, Kevin Garnett and, you know, those guys before him kind of broke that mold. We're talking about how Mark Price actually did break the mold for guys like Steph Curry, Steve Nash, and now Darius Garland. And we touched on, you know, a little bit about our guards. We got one more group of guys to cover pretty well before we kick the season off, and I think we might have a chance to do it. But before we do that, I want to touch on my musical recommendation, if you don't mind.
What do you got? Yeah, I want you to.
15 years ago or so, maybe 2005. I don't know. What is it, 18 years? 18 years now. 18
crazy?
Years ago, the rapper Common. Yeah.
Common.
So the way that I was going to transition into this after you talked about REM was Common's album that was similar to what the Up album you just referenced was actually the album before the one I'm going to reference. That album was called Electric Circus. So with Electric Circus, there was some just weird experimental, like outside the box, not typical hip hop stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep.
A lot of, production that they were just like pushing just trying stuff and just outside the scope, kind of like Stevie Wonder's Secret Life of Plants. Like, just like, what is this? What am I listening to? Initially, when I first listened to it, I hated it. I took it out. I was like, I don't want to listen to this. But as I kept listening and stuff, I was like, wait, no, this is actually kind of great. It's just got like rock and everything else into it. So he took a little break because he had like, life crisis. He had a major breakup. He had some weird stuff going on with his record label. Signs with Kanye West, Good Music. And Kanye gets to work. Like, I know what we need in order to make a great Common album. That album, Common B, is in my top 5 of all time. If you've never listened to Common B, man, let me tell you what, like, Kanye West was in his genius prime, and it starts off with the corner. Actually, it starts off with the lead track B, and it goes to the corner. and it just tells like a movie, man. It tells like you can't help but feel like you're on the south side of Chicago. And the way it ended, my favorite song on that whole album is actually the very last song. It's like an outro. It's got his father speaking and doing poetry. And then it's got Jay Dilla production. Okay. My favorite producer of all time, Jay Dilla. It's called It's Your World. And I'm talking about this thing. It almost brings me to tears every time I listen to it. It's like a beautiful composition of music. So if you've never listened to Common B, it's one of my top 5 albums of all time. It's part of what puts me at peace. Like when I'm like, oh man, I'm ready for the season. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. And it's just like, hey, you know, I'm on the board and I'm stressing out. And some of the guys like Mirror Rich are like, hey, Rchfld, chill out. You know, I'm like, all right, you're right, Mirror Rich. Let me go listen to Common B. And I'll let this whole process play out a little bit. Because he got some gems on there. But if you only listen to one or two, The Corner, number two track, and then the last track on there, It's Your World. Just beautiful production. It's a art masterpiece, and it's like Kanye West painted a picture that Common just narrated us through. So, have you ever heard any of the songs on that?
I have listened to that album. In fact, I remember Kanye and Common coming on the Chappelle show and performing. I believe it was the Food live. Yeah, I remember them doing that live. Okay. And Common, God, what did I see of him performing? I mean, he was literally performing live on the corner. I don't remember where, but there's a really cool. There's a few
I know
really
what you're
cool videos.
He walked up to a kid.
Freestyle.
Somebody was doing something on the street. And he started freestyling and going. Yeah. He does that in real life. I've seen him twice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's awesome.
I've seen him 3 times. The first time was at Beachland Ballroom in Cleveland.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was.
Yeah, it was at a Beachland Ballroom. Actually, the person who opened up for him was a dude from Kent State. It was a Ghanaian rapper named Blitz. And Blitz actually is now a movie producer. So if anybody spent time, a dude on the board who's going to know this, his name is The Hill. His name is Dave from out in Kent. There was a store out there right by the Robin Hood in Kent. And this dude sold incense and mixtapes and stuff. And I had no idea until I saw him at Beachland Ballroom opening up for Common that he actually was a rapper. And I went and got his album and I was like, oh my God, this dude is coming like straight from Africa, like revolution, talking about set my people free and all this kind of stuff. And then Common comes out and he literally comes out and starts freestyling. And he's like, you know, because LeBron had just been drafted a year before. And, you know, he like everything he did, he talked about Swenson's, he talked about Slimans, he was just like, I was like, wait, what? Like, this is awesome. Yeah. Dude, he went straight off the dome. He rapped about people that was sitting in front of him. He went over there and played.
I mean, that's how you know these guys are really freestyling and it's no BS when they start running through these guys. Yeah, man,
he went over there.
There's my hip hop playlist.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why you my bro. That's right. You got like half the album on there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He stopped his show and he went over and he played Mozart on the piano.
I didn't know he could do that. Yeah. I don't know that much about him, to be honest with you. I love that album. It's the only album I have anything from him on. I've got the whole album from there, and obviously I listen to it when it comes through on shuffle. And then I discovered him whenever he and Kanye were on Chappelle's show.
Awesome.
They were awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was back in 2004.
Walked in the crib, got 2 kids, and my baby mama late. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What I had to did.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the joint.
It was. Yeah, that's definitely that. Yeah, I loved him. I love that. Now you're making me want to have to pop that playlist back on.
So we got 2 musical recommendations.
2 musical, like definitely different, very different. But yeah, those are 2 great albums too.
REM Up and Common B. That's like very poignant and very succinct album. Like you got to just have one word in order for it to be timeless. Like Up and B. Like that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's a matter of what pops up in your head whenever you hear hear that type of album. You know what I mean?
Interpret this however you want to.
Exactly.
So,
that's how you know I think that's how you know you have great work, actually.
Yeah. So we're winding down. Oh, I do want to say this real quick, Jig. I keep cutting you off and I'm being totally rude.
Good.
Awesome work on your part and getting the think tank going. And
let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
So we're not only going to go back to making sure we get calls coming in because we want to make sure that you guys are hearing other voices other than ours. But Jig, if you're on the board, jump in there and there's a thread called the think tank where we're taking recommendations on segments. You're taking recommendations on like, hey, Rich, you got the microphone too close, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like jump in there. But it's been really helpful. Rich on the board actually jumped over to YouTube and started some conversation. And within 24 hours of him, because we both responded to him and was engaging him and stuff, our visibility went crazy. Like, and it, of course it's helping that we've got this video up and stuff. But already I think we doubled our views from our last summer video and everything. And engagements and stuff there. If we're on there having conversations and commenting and stuff like that, YouTube is like, let's make this more visible. And it really helps.
Right.
So
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So if you can pop in there and what we're looking for is feedback, but obviously we know we got a lot of talented people out there too. So if you guys want to send us stuff that we can share on the show, but as we get things going on social media too, commentary, feedback, stuff that you want to talk to us about on social media, or even if you want to, do some work that we can share, stuff like that will help tremendously to get this thing really moving.
That was pretty awesome after we shared that first episode and everybody had their Radiohead stories and stuff. That was like a full conversation to itself. Like
that's the thing. Exactly. I mean, we're not just talking Cavs on here, and we want to do the same thing as we get this out. I mean, everybody's got their stuff they want to talk about. You know what I mean?
So
yeah, that makes me happy.
Yeah, Mr. Mark Price breaking the glass so that Darius Garland could be the point guard of this team right here.
Got it.
That's what this episode was all about. And then one Mr. Emoni Bates, who seems to have captured the hearts of the Cleveland fan base, and everybody can't wait to see Emoni Bates get on the floor and let that thing fly. So one more week.
I want to see him cook.
Don't you?
I want to see him cook, man. I want to see him waving them boys off.
Karras did it last night, but he was waving off Emoni Bates and Ty Jerome. You can do it then, Karras. You can wave them off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a matter of the company you keep.
Yeah, when you're on the floor and you're waving off Niang and Ty Jerome and Max Strus, do your cooking then. That's okay. We're all right with that.
That's all right.
Signing off for Rubber Rim Job, Season 3, Episode 2, The Price is Right.
This is Joe Tait.
I feel like I gotta
everybody.
I gotta make an edit to the soundboard so I can add the outro.